we've rolled out a series of measures to get people the help they need as quickly as possible. As things evolve, we're hearing from Canadians who need more help, from businesses who need more support. No one should feel as if they're alone in this fight. Our government is here to help you through these challenging times. So when we hear the program is not reaching as many people as it should, we make changes.
Ottawa extends a lifeline to more Canadian businesses. Hi, and welcome to Power and Politics. I'm Vashi Kapelos. Here's what you need to know about today's announcement from the federal government. It expands the Canada Emergency Business Account, a $40,000 loan for small businesses struggling with the financial impact of COVID-19. It's interest-free until 2022, and $10,000 of it is forgivable if the loan is fully repaid by the end of that year. Until today, businesses with payrolls from $50,000 to $1 million were eligible, but the government has now expanded that eligibility to companies that spent between $20,000 and $1.5 million in wages in 2019. So far, 195,000 businesses have qualified for the loan. That gives you a bit of a picture of what the need is like. Ottawa also announced rent relief for businesses through the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. Most details are being worked out with the provinces as we speak, but the government says it will loan money to commercial property owners so they can lower or forego rent to small businesses. Will those new supports be enough, though? Sandrine Campeau owns Sandrine Confections in Montreal, and Sarah Chown is the managing partner at the Metropolitan Brasserie restaurant here in Ottawa. Hi to both of you.
Hi, Vashi.
Sarah, I hope I said your last name right. I apologize if not.
You well.
Okay, good. Why don't I start with you? Tell us a bit about the Met. Everyone who watches here in Ottawa will be familiar with the restaurant. Have you been able to access any of the government programs so far, and what's your sort of initial take on what was announced today? Can it be of help to you?
So for us, definitely today was helpful for sure. We didn't qualify until today. We're a pretty labor-intensive restaurant, as I'm sure a lot of you would know. And we didn't meet that $1 million threshold, but we will now qualify with the $1.5 million cap. We have taken advantage a little bit of the wage subsidy program starting this week, but this might allow us to do a little bit more for sure.
And Sandrine, what about you? We've spoken before, and at the time you couldn't access that loan program. That was something you were thinking about doing, but you couldn't access it because of the restrictions around qualifications. Does the broadening of those restrictions, or the broadening of the qualifications rather, does that help you at all?
No, it doesn't. It's still status quo for me. I'm still trying to find a source of funding that's available to be able to help me prepare myself for the busy season. So I'm holding out. I'm wondering why they're forgetting about us.
And tell me a bit more, explain for our audience again why this doesn't pertain to your business.
Because I don't have a payroll of $50,000. So we're a relatively new business. We've been open for a little over a year. I have been very careful with my expenses over the winter season because it's quieter. In the summer we do ice cream, so it's busier. So I didn't meet the $50,000 given that I don't pay myself. So I'm penalized because I'm careful. I'm a cautious business owner. So
do you meet the $20,000?
I don't even meet the $20,000.
So it still doesn't apply, right?
No, it doesn't. I mean, I think any small business that, is either run by the owner, himself, or if you have a seasonal business where you're only having part-time employees at certain times of the year, then that whole sort of category is ignored.
Sarah, a big part of the announcement today was a signal for the first time from the federal government that they're going to intervene when it comes to commercial rent. That is something right across the board we have heard about here. Tons of business owners writing in about that. It's provincial, but it sounds like the federal government's going to loan money or be involved, I guess, through the provinces. I'm not sure exactly of the details yet, in loaning money to commercial property owners in order to secure rent relief for the tenants. How significant is the potential for that for you? How much do you need that?
Huge. That's been, I would say, our number one concern since day one was how are we going to stay alive? We operate a pretty large location. Our space is pretty vast and we're in a prime spot, so our rent is pretty substantial. And without support, we will not succeed, nor will most small businesses. We just are not in a position to support that, especially in this industry with margins so low, as we've heard before. Deferring that rent over a long period of time is just not sustainable.
How about, has your landlord, I guess, have there been any conversations there? Before this announcement, there were a lot of politicians sort of urging landlords who, on the flip side, are not necessarily the bad guy, right? They have a mortgage to pay as well. They were urging them to be as lenient as possible. Has that been a conversation for you at all?
Yeah, for sure. We've had a dialogue going very early on, since before the 1st of April, just kind of laying out the situation, letting them know we're coming off those dredges of winter and we're already in rough shape going into this time of year. So they've been understanding to this point. There has basically been a conversation to not agree to anything. It's kind of, I would say, a little bit early in the process. And we understand that, government's focused on a lot of other things right now, like saving people's lives and, getting masks, but that there should be some relief coming that will help us with them or will help them obtain some money through the government for sure.
Sandrine, I remember you were saying you had kind of started to reorganize your business a bit to try and address the new reality. How is that going, and what are your plans going forward?
So far it's been going really well. We've managed to pivot into something really interesting. The demand is there, but again, without this loan that I would need to be able to invest in some infrastructure changes, an e-commerce site, and some new equipment, I can't sort of sustain it in the longer term. So, for me, rent is actually not an issue. It's really just the loan is really what I need to be able to make a little bit more money over the summer, because I suspect that this is not just going to end on May 3rd, that, social distancing is sort of a reality, specifically for someone that's in the food business for a long time. So I'm going to have to probably just adapt my entire business altogether.
And what's the pivot that you already made? Just so that you kind of touched on it there, but so that our viewers understand, how have you changed your business?
So we are doing local delivery, which is done by myself, and we are doing productions of macarons, which is something we didn't do before. We're doing cupcake kits that are delivered in people's homes so people can enjoy our product, but also be a little creative. And we're getting ready to hopefully launch ice cream that will be delivered to your front door.
Gotcha. Sarah, the one thing that I've been thinking about throughout the past few weeks as we've been talking about immediate financial relief is something that Sandrine touched on as well, and that is like, what is the new reality going forward? Because we keep hearing from a public health perspective that really until there's a vaccine, which could be a year and a half off, things will not be as they were 4 months ago, which my guess would be has a huge impact on restaurants specifically, because if you have to have a restaurant where only a tenth of your normal customer base can sit down in the dining room, let's say, for example, I'm just speculating, but that's going to have a huge impact on your bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, a tenth would be great if it was only a reduction by that, but I expect it'll probably be a lot more. And that's a reality that we're kind of coming to terms with. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we know everything's not just going to open like floodgates. And we're trying to prepare for that we're going to be operating at half capacity and we'll have to make adjustments. But again, the rent piece will come back when that happens as well. Like, you're going to have to really sit down and think about whether or not you can continue to pay the amounts you've been paying over, the time where we have that reduced capacity.
For sure. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I really appreciate both of you spending some time with us this evening and sharing your experiences, and we wish you all the best. Thanks so much to Sandrine Campeau and Sarah Chown.
Thanks, Sandrine. Thanks, Vashi.
Thank you.
As you just heard, gaps do remain in the government's support for small businesses. Is there more help to come? From Toronto right now, I'm joined by Mary Ng, the Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion, and International Trade. Hi, Minister. Good to see you again.
Hi, always good to see you, Vashi.
So Minister, we were just talking to a few business owners who are one was positively impacted by the announcement today, feels that now they will be able to access that business loan. The other one still is self-employed, runs a bakery, won't be able to meet that payroll requirement. Is your government considering just dropping the payroll requirements altogether?
Well, I had an opportunity just to listen to a little bit of what, your earlier discussion was. And it's exactly those ideas and the eligibility for businesses like hers to be able to get access to the small business loan. So the expanded criteria will catch many, many more businesses. And I am also hearing exactly that story where businesses are using the loan as a way of being able to look at how they might be able to pivot their business, how they create an online presence as an example, and how the wage subsidy is helping them with the human capital that they need to keep running their business. So I'm going to keep listening to businesses, of course, and but it's good to hear that many, many more businesses are going to be able to use this in an effort to keep their businesses going.
Yeah, I'm not trying to take away, Minister, from the number of people that these announcements surely will help, but there still are some who don't meet the eligibility requirements for that $40,000 loan. My question to you is, why not remove all eligibility criteria when it comes to the payroll so that you catch everybody? The idea behind all these programs your government has set often is to sort of grab as many people who need help as possible. Why not take that extra step?
Well, our programs are pretty comprehensive in nature. So for the sole proprietor or for the contractor that may not get access to the loan because they don't have those kinds of overhead expenses and so forth, can actually get access to the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. But in this new expanded criteria, from 20,000 in payroll to 1.5 million in payroll, we are hearing just a really, really good response, because we put this together precisely because of the feedback we were getting from so many businesses to make sure that they can get this additional help, to pay for those overhead costs.
So speaking of those costs, for some businesses we've heard from, some will benefit from this alone and be able to use them towards those fixed costs, towards rent, for example, which is a big concern for a number of businesses. Some will not. Some $40,000 might not get them through the next 3 months, especially if they're in, for example, a market like Toronto, a market like Vancouver, maybe even a market like Montreal. Your government today announced a sort of rent assistance program. I want to make sure I get the right name here. Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. And the finance minister signaled that you would be lending money to commercial property owners who would then be required to offer some relief to their tenants. Can you be more specific about what kind of relief? Will they have to, for example, offer total rent relief in order to secure a loan? How will that work?
Well, those are the very details that we'll have to share with you, in a short little while. Of course, rent is something that is under the jurisdiction of the provinces and the territories. We are working with them so that we can provide the kind of support that businesses need. And rent, we know, as you pointed out, is a significant operating expenses for many businesses. And we want to be able to make sure that this relief is out there. So I'm looking forward to giving you sort of more details once we are able to do that.
So have those conversations begun with the provinces, and will it be sort of a patchwork approach? Might it be different, for example, in Ontario versus New Brunswick, or will it be a uniform national program?
Well, it's going to be, it's going to apply to businesses across the country, that is for sure. And this is precisely why working with our provincial and territorial partners are so important, because it is something that is under their jurisdiction. And if anything has shown us through COVID-19 is our ability and our commitment to work with everyone, businesses, of course, but also the other jurisdictions, so that we together are serving businesses and Canadians across the country.
Minister, I want to ask you also, as you're in your portfolio of international trade, we are minutes away, as our viewers can see on the screen there, 40 minutes away, I think, 30 minutes away from hearing from U.S. President Donald Trump, who says he is about to unveil the plan to reopen the economy in the United States. Last night, he said that the border between Canada and the U.S. would be one of the early releases. The Prime Minister seemed to say those discussions were weeks away. Have any discussions occurred between the federal government and the White House about reopening the border or loosening restrictions at the border?
Well, we have conversations, with our American neighbors all the time. I'll quote my colleague, the Deputy Prime Minister, earlier, which is that decisions about Canada's border is going to be made by Canadians. The U.S. is an important partner and neighbor to our country. We've got strong people-to-people ties, and what we've done, of course, is make sure that our very critical essential services and supplies continue to move between our borders. But both countries are steadfast and committed to the safety and the health of our people. We certainly, are and need to be, and our neighbors to the south are as well.
Do you have any assurances, Minister, from the White House, or does the Prime Minister have assurances from the President that it will have to be sort of both parties coming to an agreement about loosening those restrictions? Because it certainly didn't sound like both are on the same page.
Well, we have conversations all the time, and that is the nature of the relationship we have with our neighbor. I think our record and the work and the accomplishments we've been able to do together, both countries over the years, have demonstrated our ability to work together, and this is no different.
Is there a metric by which your government will decide that those restrictions can be loosened? I'll tell you why I'm asking. Two of the states that our country borders, New York State and Michigan, are seeing some real, very high incidence of cases. The spread of the virus is more severe there than, for example, in other states. Are you looking at specific numbers? Do you have to see a flattening of the curve, for example, in those states before the federal government here will consider loosening those restrictions?
I think there are many items that will actually guide our decision. And again, I want to assure Canadians that those decisions will be made by Canadians, absolutely.
But with respect, Minister, which items? Which items, Minister?
Well, job one is making sure that the health and safety of Canadians is assured, and that is that's how we are making. That's what's driving our decision making today. I mean, to make sure that the health and safety of Canadians is job one, and making sure that our businesses are indeed supported through this difficult period is equally important, so that we can manage through this pandemic crisis and then get on a road to recovery when it is safe to do so.
Okay, thank you so much, Minister. Appreciate your time this evening, as always.
All right, thanks so much, Vashi. You stay safe.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.